The views and opinions expressed by the guests and hosts of this podcast do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of the Lansdowne Public Library or its affiliates.
Welcome to the Lansdowne Library's Geek Out podcast,
where we geek out about just about anything.
I'm Dave.
I'm Jeff.
And if you would like to be on future episodes of the Geek Out podcast, Jeff, where can they go?
Well, if you head over to lansdowne.library.org/podcasts, there'll be a green register here button. Click that, fill out a small form, and, just let us know that you want to chat with us.
All right. And we're welcoming, once again, back to the show, Alex.
Hello, how are you?
This month, well, it's the holidays again, so we're going to get a little into some festive spirits. And I don't mean any alcohol.
I mean, that probably will come up in discussion, actually. Wassailing's a thing.
That's true.
We won't partake, especially not considering we're filming this in the painting room, and that's a very weird specific rule for this part of the library, but also the rest of the library.
Alcohol in the rest of the library, but especially not here.
Yeah, it's doubly so here for bizarre reasons.
Hallowed ground.
Yes.
But spirits in the terms of folklore and legend and all sorts of, I guess you could say supernatural things regarding the holidays.
In some cases, especially Victorian England loved ghost stories for Christmas.
Yeah. So, folk tales, that sort of stuff. Especially linking to the Yuletide, the solstice, is very common in a lot of civilizations throughout history. Obviously, we're in the Western civilization. We will be talking about other civilizations too, but our basis, the most well-known holiday around the solstice is Christmas, so that can be kind of a jumping-off point that we will be going around the world.
There are some oddballs out there, and in terms of just, I don't know how this started, but it fascinates the heck out of me. I imagine basically everyone at this point knows about Krampus, at least.
Yeah, the movie did a lot for Krampus's notoriety.
Since we've established the baseline, Alex, are there any that stand out particularly to you?
One I like that is technically not confirmed, so I don't know exactly, but it is related to the origins of Santa Claus, which I'm sure a lot of people already know. There's connections between him and a real-life historical person, St. Nicholas, as Santa Claus is the anglicized version of the Dutch Santa Claus, which is St. Nicholas. So there's that, but my interest is more in the Green Man, which there's not really any confirmation that there is a link between Santa Claus and the Green Man. There's also not even a confirmation that the Green Man is a thing. There's obviously a lot of art and architectural facets related to the Green Man. But there was a professor who actually was from Philadelphia, Leo Brody, who wrote a book about the Green Man and all of his iterations throughout early medieval culture and art. And he posited there was a link. It wasn't just an architectural feature, it was an actual mythological person, which, if you're not familiar, there's a very common architectural feature of a person's face with a flowing beard and lots of hair. However, the beard is usually made out of leaves. You can find this all over Europe, especially in Celtic areas. So the idea that Brody proposed is that it was a type of benevolent nature deity who would ward through the winter and keep things alive. So he's associated with life and the preservation of that through the harsh winters. And he connected various peoples from mythology to this as updated versions of the Green Man, including the Green Knight from Arthurian legend, but also Robin Hood and Peter Pan, either being preserving festivities, giving gifts. Robin Hood gives gifts to people, he steals from the rich to give to the poor. Peter Pan is an eternal youth. And then linking that now with Santa Claus, as he is a generous gift giver who goes through winter. So again, this isn't confirmed, but I like the idea of it, and a lot of early depictions of Santa Claus did wear green, so
No, I think I can. I mean, it sounds like it would make a lot of sense to conflate some of these, if not out of ignorance, out of just tying sort of pagan mythology to Christian traditions in order to unite maybe scarce communities, especially in medieval and definitely pre-medieval.
Yeah. It is one of those things that Christmas takes place when it does because Yule was already there. Because generally speaking, what parts we do have for Christ's birth don't make sense for winter. There would not be a shepherd with his flock out, for example. They would not be out in winter for good reason. You can't really graze then. So we kind of had to drop one religious thing into another, and we've gotten some really fun results out of it.
There is a lot of crossover with Celtic, Nordic, and Roman mythologies and the Christian Christmas. Although I did want to talk about the theories as to why Christmas is on December 25th. I think it's kind of a popular thing, like a lot of people online are like, did you know about Saturnalia and stuff like that? And so I don't know that we need to go over that specifically. Of course, it is interesting and it is good to go over. But there is a competing theory that is actually a lot older and more grounded in history as to why Christmas was put on December 25th. I do think they wanted to match it with Saturnalia, but there was another reason that St. Augustine actually talks about. So the very first mention of putting Christmas over top of Saturnalia doesn't come until the 12th century, whereas the first reference to the other method comes as early as the 4th century by St. Augustine, who said that there was a traditional Jewish belief that prophets were killed on the same day, like the anniversary of when they were conceived. And according to their belief at that time in the 4th century, Jesus was crucified on the 25th of March. So if he was conceived on the 25th of March, 9 months later is December 25th. So it is thought that according to the earliest writings we have, that was the rationale given. And again, this is from St. Augustine, who was in the 4th century. Christmas became an official holiday under Emperor Constantine. Augustine was 5th century. Constantine was 4th century. So Augustine is writing very close to when Christmas first became an official holiday. Yeah. That's not confirming that that's definitely why they did it, but that was a very prominent theory of the day as to why they picked the 25th. Because nobody knows.
Yeah, we don't have his birth certificates or nothing.
Yeah. If anybody thinks about, he was born during the census. Censuses in the Rome, they took years.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a day.
It's not quite the same as, modern times of the censuses. I mean, it still runs for a couple of months even.
Right.
And we have the internet. We can communicate with everybody on the planet simultaneously if we really need to.
Right.
Feedback was bad now.
Yeah.
There were censuses that just petered out and
never finished.
It's taking too long. I don't want to get...
I mean, yeah, by the time they got to the last group, it's like, well, this has not been accurate for months. So many people have been born and died.
Yeah. Also, another kind of linking the Green Man thing and just different myths and perhaps modern misconceptions. I don't know. Maybe I always have heard things about, Father Christmas and Santa Claus being interchangeable. I know a lot of people say that, but they are two distinct things. So Father Christmas, coming from specifically an English tradition, however, there are so many versions, equivalents of what Father Christmas was or is.
I feel like a lot of people just use past tense for fictional characters.
Yeah, but Santa's supposed to still be alive, so I don't know.
So it's a complex one.
But all Father Christmas is supposed to be is, again, the spirit of the Yuletide. Christmas personified. So if you think about Christmas Carol, I'm sure we're going to talk about that more.
Probably.
But the spirit of Christmas present is Father Christmas, the closest equivalent that we have in modern society, where there's just, again, the idea of preserving life, of having festivities, of having good times throughout the hardships of winter. And so you could even say, there's all sorts of representation of the Yuletide, whether they call it that, of the solstice, in all different cultures. So to call it specifically in English is a little bit misleading. But the one called Father Christmas is the English one, although he was also called Sir Christmas, or just Yule, or Captain Christmas, which I like.
Captain Christmas.
Prince Christmas, the Christmas Lord, Old Christmas. I'm sure many other things, too.
I feel like Prince Christmas and, Old Christmas, these do not feel like they should be describing the same person.
Yeah.
They feel very Rankin-Bassy of you just made this up, didn't you?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's kind of the thing, though, is the reason the Rankin-Bass Christmas, especially Santa Claus is coming to town and all that, literally took a lot of very different myths and legends and tried to fit them into one mold.
Yeah.
They explain why Santa has so many different names and things like that. And, but it's because, these are completely different characters from different regions of the world that are just sort of conflated with one another.
Yeah. And, I mean, it's very natural to have that type of character in culture because winter is something all cultures have to deal with, and it's historically a very significant event.
Yeah.
Because it's very hard to get through winter.
Almost every culture. I mean, if you're... Yeah. I imagine very few tropical cultures came up with the equivalent of...
Probably not.
They still probably would have had something for the solstice, though, because that is still a constant. Even if it's not getting cold, it's getting dark.
Right. So, and Father Christmas, as with all of these types of solstice personified characters, wasn't really focused in connection with children and gift giving like Santa Claus is, but was associated with feasting and merrymaking. The Santa Claus feature has since affected Father Christmas and changed Father Christmas to now also be a gift giver and associated with children, but that wasn't original to it. So Father Christmas and Santa Claus have become synonymous, but they do have different origins and they impact each other, adjusting each other's mythology. The gift giver, though, is a very common solstice mythological figure as well. It just wasn't Father Christmas. There's a lot of different versions of that as well.
One of which is a log.
Yes.
The less said about the log, the better, honestly. Google it. We're not getting into that today.
We can get into the goat. There's a Yule goat that gives gifts. That's a Scandinavian tradition.
Yeah.
Although the Yule goat giving gifts is a newer
fairly
thing.
New, yeah.
The Yule goat, in its oldest version that I can find anyway, was sacrificed to Njord, the Norse god, in order to, again, have the idea of holding over through the winter to get good times afterwards.
It is funny because I'd heard things about the Yule goat for a while because you got a lot of those sort of myths, but I recently discovered one of the big, I don't really know what to call this other than, but it is a tradition that's been going on in Gavel, I think it is, in Sweden. The Gavel goat is a massive, kind of like the Wicker Man, but a goat. But the thing is, you're not supposed to set it on fire. But boy, does it get set on fire a lot.
It's right there. I mean, you have to.
Exactly. So a buddy of mine sent me the link to its Wikipedia page, which includes a year-by-year what happened to it.
Nice.
A personal favorite is in, 1998, in the middle of a blizzard, somebody burned it down.
Nice.
As of 2022, because every year they try something different for security. They added a live webcam in 2022, so you could just watch this thing and wait. That goat did survive. 2022 survived. 2023's is currently being destroyed by jackdaws.
Nice.
Because the wheat they used to make it this year was more seedy than usual, so the birds have now taken it over. But it's very much worth the look to just be like, you can watch, okay, we made it flame retardant. They burned it down anyway.
Yeah.
We coated it with ice. They burned it down anyway. Just like a yearly play-by-play of what happens with this goat, and it's fantastic.
Related to the goat, did either of you read about, and I'll probably mispronounce this, but the Juleboken, Scandinavian tradition? It's somewhat akin to caroling, somewhat akin to trick-or-treat.
Oh, so kind of like wassailing is in Europe. Okay.
Right. The same idea, except for you dress up as the goat, the Yule goat, and you go into somebody's house, and you get to eat as much as you like until they guess who you are.
That's kind of magical.
So I don't know if we should incorporate that into our traditions.
Yeah, I kind of am surprised America doesn't do more with the weird wassailing tradition, because the Welsh have one as well. And I know I'm going to say this wrong, because Welsh words just don't have vowels sometimes. But Mary Lwyd, it's Lwyd. There is nothing in the world that makes these sounds that I'm aware of.
The Welsh.
The skull.
Yeah, it's like a horse skull that is carried on a stick. Yeah. And you go about wassailing, like you and a troop go door to door to trade alcohol for gifts, essentially.
Yeah, I don't know why that hasn't caught on. That seems,
that one's so bizarrely creepy and wonderful.
I mean, it's supposed to be like, ooh, look, the fun, merry thing, but it's creepy as anything.
You know.
I could see why it wouldn't fly here in America, but if someone tried to do the same thing with, like, the elf on a shelf or anything cutesy, it would be so much worse than a horse skull.
Yeah.
Someone came in with an inflatable Frosty, it's like, nope, get out. Get out.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
I'll turn it into the gabagool.
With these different traditions, and how it is creepy is actually somewhat sort of tied into the appearance of Santa Claus. Again, it's kind of a well-known trivia that Coca-Cola had a big influence in what Santa Claus, modern-day Santa Claus, looks like. But if you go back further than that, to one of his first depictions in the United States, Washington Irving, he drew Santa Claus, and there's a bit of a backstory for this. At his time, in which he lived in the end of the 18th century into the 19th century, Christmas was just a chaotic time. People would use the culture to take advantage of people. Again, the wassailing, you could break into people's homes quite easily doing that. There was a lot of danger involved in it and a lot of depraved and promiscuous activities that happened. A lot of shotgun weddings resulted because of Christmas festivities. And Santa Claus came to America via the Dutch, Sinterklaas, as mentioned earlier. And so a lot of the Christmas traditions were all associated with the Dutch at the time of Washington Irving. And so he wrote A History of New York to kind of make a parody and poke fun at the Dutch and to try to calm people down in regards to Christmas traditions. And so he created a lot of new Christmas traditions regarding acceptable behaviors and what kind of things were more safe traditions to take part in. And he had a picture of Santa Claus, and this is one of the first depictions of Santa Claus where he's not in his bishop apparel. He pictured him as a plump Dutch sailor with a pipe and a green winter coat, and that is, again, one of the first times he's depicted as plump. He didn't stay plump until much more recently, with Coca-Cola as being a major contributor to that. But that is one of the first times that he's not depicted specifically as a religious figure, but as a plump person in a green coat.
It is kind of weird. Santa has done a lot of permutations, and it's interesting because I feel like, well, again, in fairness, part of that is I'm thinking of Father Christmas. I'm not thinking of Santa. I'm thinking, but there must have been earlier depictions that show him as a jolly kind of fat guy. And it's like, well, yes, but those aren't Santa yet.
Right.
Those will be lumped in with Santa later.
It's kind of funny, like, the round, jovial guy is like, yeah, that's Santa. And then, like, the second he's, like, in green and anything else, oh, that's Father Christmas.
Yeah.
Like, like, that's your dad, and then there's your uncle.
Yeah. It is such an odd thought, because, yeah, it's most depictions of him early on would have been as St. Nicholas, with the proper robes and vestments and all that, but...
Well, even as you mentioned, you said... He made him to look like a Dutch sailor, and St. Nicholas was also supposed to be associated with sailors.
Children and sailors.
So that's a kind of a neat bridgeway, I think.
Yeah. Also of merchants and archers for some. He's associated, I printed out the list. This is patron saint of sailors, merchants, archers, repentant thieves, children, brewers, pawnbrokers, unmarried people, and students.
So
it's quite a
it's a little something for everybody, I guess.
Pawnbrokers, I don't know. But brewers, so...
Yeah, that makes sense for some of the sailing traditions and things like that.
Yeah.
Sounds like a fun guy.
By all accounts.
Yeah.
Apparently a little too fun. We had to tone him down a little in more recent histories, which... I mean, is kind of the case with a lot of Christmas traditions, because, they were kind of raucous, to the point that the Puritans outright banned celebrating Christmas in America for most of early America.
And in England, too.
Yeah.
They were more doing it in England for religious reasons, saying it was too papist to celebrate Christmas. So, various reasons to not have Christmas. One story I find funny about St. Nicholas, the actual person, as mentioned before, he was a Greek bishop who lived in Asia Minor. And he was notable for many reasons, but not all of them were the reasons we think of him today, not just as a gift giver or a generous soul, but he was also a very prominent theologian. And there's one instance that's recorded where he was in a council of bishops, and he got into an argument with another individual, and it got so heated that he ended up punching the guy. And so
Wasn't that the Council of Nicaea?
I don't know off the top of my head. It could be.
That does sound vaguely familiar.
If I remember correctly, it was that big council where they're like, all right, we're going to settle all this once and for all. And then he threw a punch and got promptly thrown out for it.
Which I just find hilarious. I know the actual person and the modern-day Santa Claus are vastly different from each other, but still thinking Santa Claus punched somebody.
I mean, again, there are versions of Santa Claus that I could see doing that. Like, never the Rankin Bass Santa, but Tim Allen, Tim Allen Santa's going to punch somebody.
I'm pretty sure he did it.
He may have. It's been a while since I've seen that.
I haven't seen the Martin Short one, but knowing the characters he plays, I can see that.
Yeah, that seems entirely reasonable. Maybe The Nightmare Before Christmas Santa. He went through a lot in that movie. Yeah. He probably had a good punch to somebody due to him, honestly.
Oh, he absolutely would have messed up Jack if he didn't have a schedule to keep.
Yeah. But that is, again, one of those fun things where it's just like, well, yeah, those are all technically the same character, but they are very different between those depictions.
Yeah. And there's just so many, offshoots, because there's so many versions of the character to begin with. Because, again, the idea of a gift giver during the solstice or of a preserver of nature through the winter are so common. And a lot of them are fairy folk related, and so there are versions of Santa Claus where he is very, very small. He is referred to as an elf in some songs that are still popular to this day. But there's also artwork where it shows him as he's the size of your hand. It doesn't help to show.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I find is very hard to avoid, is using gestures in an audio medium.
Yeah.
It is interesting because, and American Santa Claus is always jolly, whereas some of the European myths less so.
And he doesn't always have elves to help him, but I don't know that we should describe who else he has in some versions.
There is Krampus, and there is... Well, Black Peter is also an elf, but he's a Norse elf. Yeah. And he is not one of the friendly Norse elves.
There's a lot going on in the other realms.
Yeah. Well, there's even, if you go into the Norse stuff, There's trolls still involved in the Christmas story, if you will. And so you talk about gift givers. There's the 13 troll brothers.
Oh, God. The Yule Lads.
Yeah,
they're just called Yule Lads. I'm like, what are they called? I know this one. And it's the Yule Lads. And some of them are gift givers, but they're all also kind of like weird scamps.
They're all thieves.
Yeah.
One will just like steal your spoons.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, I'm fine, I guess.
Because I was waiting to talk about these. I just had a list of all these guys.
They have some phenomenal names.
All right, hold on. All right, so I'm just going to go through the English translation because Iceland, you're cool.
I don't know what any of your vowels do.
I will butcher these more than I can ever do them right. So you've got... Oh, wow, they actually stay... Interesting. So they stay... So they arrive and then stay about a week between December 12th and December 24th. And then they leave... The first one comes on December 12th and will leave on Christmas. And then the last one leaves on January 6th. So celebrate into
just before the Feast of the Epiphany, basically.
So, just to run through, you've got Sheepcoat Clod, you have Gully Gawk, you have Stubby, Spoon Licker, Pot Scraper, Bowl Licker, Door Slammer, Skier Gobbler, Sausage Swiper, Window Peeper, Doorway Sniffer, Meat Hook, and Candle Beggar.
All their names are related to what they do.
Yeah. So Spoon Licker is doing exactly what it says on the box.
Yeah. I mean, they're the children of another Icelandic character. Ogress named Grilla. You have 13 kids. At that point, you're like, all right, look, just show me what you can do, and then we'll just go from there.
Go bother those people for Christmas.
You lick spoons? I approve of it. Your name is Spoon Licker. Get out.
That's just you now.
And she is in Norse myth, like, you can find her not connected to Christmas, but in the Prose Edda and other sagas. But she somehow is now adapted into Christmas, and she will just attack children or kidnap children. Or
I think she kidnaps kids.
Yeah. And then there's also a cat that does that too.
So the Yule Cat. I love the Yule Cat. Because the Yule Cat sounds like something my parents would have told me about. Because the Yule Cat does a very specific thing for a very specific reason. The Yule Cat will eat anyone it encounters that did not get new clothes for Christmas. I'm pretty sure the Yule Cat exists whenever a kid complains that they got socks at Christmas. Yep. It's, well, we had to give you socks or the Yule Cat would eat you. Yep. This is 100% a character that is an excuse, and I love them for it.
It's just a big, sassy cat.
It's just a gigantic, I do think that there is something, weird about it besides its size. I remember the depictions, but I can't think of what was so weird. It's got, the very Cheshire Cat-ish face with a big smile with massive teeth.
Okay.
And I think it's just, weirdly long as well. But, the main thing is if you didn't get new clothes for Christmas, it will eat you, which is that's not on you. What? This feels like an unfair punishment. I didn't buy my gifts.
Well, you should have made sure that people knew that you needed new clothes.
True, but that's also a big slight. If someone really didn't like you, they would not buy you clothes.
Yep. Yeah, if your parents didn't get you a sweater, it means they want the Yule Cat to eat you.
Yeah. Are there any other traditions? We've been staking close to variations of Christmas. Are there any other traditions either of you are familiar with, or just very strange Christmas traditions?
Oh, I got one. It's actually very, I think, very specific to Catalonia in Spain, and it is the Caganer, which is... In many places in the Western Hemisphere, a lot of Christmas decorations include the scene of the Nativity. So you have all your little figures of, baby Jesus, Mary, Joseph, wise men, animals, and all that. But in Catalonia, they have one extra one. And it's a tiny guy, just usually off to the side, but his pants are down and he is just taking a number 2.
Yeah. From what I understand, the point is to hide him somewhere in the nativity scene.
It's not supposed to see him right away.
Yeah.
And no one knows exactly why it started. No one exactly knows why he's there. There's a bunch of different, theories.
I'm sure you know why.
because it's fun.
Because it's funny. Yeah.
Someone had a sense of humor, and everyone went, you know what? This is perfect. I love this.
Yeah.
If I could find one of my own,
I'm
put them right there.
I'm sure there's available on Amazon somewhere.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Among, in fairness, the number of weird things I used to hide in the nativity scene as a kid.
Like you put your Star Wars characters
basically,
in there.
It would always be like, once Pokemon came out, it was over, because they made those very small figurines, and I could hide them anywhere.
Yeah.
Very frequently, Baby Jesus got replaced with a Pikachu.
They have a sheep Pokemon.
That's true. I could just put a couple of Mareeps in there, no one would ever notice.
Exactly.
Yeah, they're bright yellow, don't ask questions. It's Christmas.
It's the light of the barn. I don't care. Whatever.
One Christmas tradition that, as far as I can tell, doesn't exist, but should exist. Not so much a tradition, but in terms of decoration. Every year I try to find a Star Trek badge Christmas tree topper. And each year I cannot find them. They make toppers of the Enterprise.
Yeah.
But you need a star. Their badge is a star.
It's a star, yeah.
Why has this not happened? I'm very frustrated. I want one. Somebody made one, and I will buy it.
The Hallmark ornaments for all of the weird franchises are baffling, but I love them. Like, my family has all of the Star Trek and all of the Star Wars ornaments. I've got a handful of the Godzilla ornaments. It's just like, our Christmas tree is completely unrelated to Christmas. Other than, to be fair, the very early Star Trek ornaments, that Delta Flyer and things like that, actually would say, like, Merry Christmas and all that. But none of them since then have. They've just been things from the scene that they're designed to be.
There's also, like, the Christmas pickle.
Yeah.
Which I don't remember where... I mean, I know it's a German thing, but I don't actually remember much else about it, other than you hide it on the tree, and whoever finds
it first is supposed to get, like, a bonus present or something. Those ones are kind of fun. And, you know, you'll get your weird regional ornaments, which is also nice. Ukraine, for example, is big on spiders.
Yeah.
It's very common to find spiders in the Christmas tree. And there's a whole, like, origin story for tinsel that is based on that. The whole 9 yards. Not, of course, to be confused with Australia's Christmas spiders, which are just an indigenous species to Australia, and are, I think, poisonous because it's Australia.
It's safe. But
yeah, just don't touch anything if you happen to be in Australia. Except for wombats. Wombats are safe.
Huntsmen are safe. They just...
yeah,
they're just big.
But they have the highest fatality rate because they jump at people when they're driving.
Yeah.
Well, then you should have checked. Yeah. You're supposed to check your shoes anyway. You might as well check everything else.
Everything. I've seen a lot of really ornate and, like, very, very cleverly thought through Christmas spider designs. Because, like, there was one I saw that was basically, like, a bunch of different Christmas ornaments arranged to look like a spider. That was really cool.
There's a guy... I don't know if he's there this year, because I wasn't there long, but at the Christmas Village in Philadelphia, in the center of the town, there's a guy that does, like, glass blowing and has a bunch of gorgeous spider ornaments. Pretty pricey, but they are phenomenal.
Blown glass ain't cheap. If you want cheap, that's what pressed glass is for.
Probably a more well-known Christmas tradition, but Japan's KFC.
Yeah,
That's one that I think we should adopt as well.
Yeah, I'm kind of for that. Fried chicken for Christmas sounds fine. I just love that is just a marketing scam that went really well, though.
Very successful.
Just like, oh no, this is what Americans eat at Christmas. Trust me.
Yeah, and they did.
And they did.
Well, KFC holds a lot of power in Japan, and not necessarily in, like, a corporate thing. There was a baseball team that after they won, like, the championship, people, had their typical run through the streets and party exorbitantly. And as sports fans that are celebrating or want to do, they threw the statue of Colonel Sanders in the river in celebration. And their team proceeded to do terribly for, like, the next 10 or so years. Yeah. So it was the Colonel's curse.
Yeah.
And I think eventually they dispatched divers to go to the bottom of the river and find it. And they dredged it up. And I think the team, they're not as good as they once were, so I don't know if the curse has been lifted, but...
Maybe a little bit lifted. I mean, just because he's putting it back up doesn't mean the insult doesn't.
Yeah, the Colonel's still mad and is also frequently confused for Santa Claus over there. Yeah. So, you know... There's a lot... Well, they literally dress Colonel Sanders up. Like, the little statues that they have usually will be replaced with Christmas versions, because... he is their Christmas tradition now.
And we like that.
I love that it's an easy one. Nobody's getting hurt. Well, I mean, there's probably a lot of less than healthy everything involved in making KFC, to be fair, but the same could be said of basically any food joint.
That's like, your one a year, or, that's your special occasion. That's okay.
Yeah, and I mean, there are worse fast food joints you could be eating at than KFC. But yeah, that one's very silly. And there are a handful of, very bizarre specific traditions. Another one in Sweden is, during the early 50s and 60s, there was really only one TV station in Sweden. And so they aired one of Walt Disney's Christmas specials, which in the States was called From All of Us to All of You. And it's basically just a collection of various cartoons and some... the equivalent of, teaser trailers for upcoming films. So it had, things like Ferdinand the Bull and some of the other old Disney shorts, and it was all hosted by Jiminy Cricket and Mickey Mouse, and it aired yearly here in the States from the early 60s until, I think, 1980 they stopped. It has aired every year in Sweden, where it is, instead of From All of Us to All of You, it's just Donald Duck and his friends wish you a Merry Christmas. Donald Duck is only in one of the shorts.
He's apparently most important.
In a lot of the world, he does seem to be. Europe really loves Donald Duck in a way I don't fully understand, but will respect. Donald is awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I never cared for Mickey very much. So.
He doesn't get to be a character.
No.
It's an unfortunate truth to just sort of being the corporate mascot there.
Yeah.
It's the same reason, Coca-Cola's version of Santa is kind of a nothing. It just is his look. But they can't do anything with him because he's a mascot now. It's a very strange one because it gets about 50% of Swedish families every year watch this, at this point, 60, 70-year-old collection of cartoons?
I mean, I do that every year anyway when I look up old Christmas specials on YouTube. I can't fault them.
It's true. I mean, we've mentioned the Rankin Bass films, and
we've done an episode on the Rankin Bass films.
They're no spring chickens themselves, but that percentage is getting half of a country to watch anything.
Yeah.
Because... Queen Elizabeth's funeral got 13% of England to watch it. And they're not getting another one anytime soon,
No.
Knock on wood, you mean?
Look, we fought a war and won. I don't have to care about the English royal family.
There you go.
We made that decision over 200 years ago.
Yeah. Does seem like things like that royal wedding, the royal funerals, more Americans seem to be watching it than British subjects.
Yeah, to briefly tie it back into Christmas, part of that is just our numbers, because the same thing could be said of the Doctor Who Christmas specials, they do pretty good in England, they do very well in America, but,
they're a lot larger.
England is not very big compared to America.
Yeah. It's also tying England and Christmas together. I won't remember his name. It's not coming. But Queen Victoria's husband was very much into decorating trees. And that was, a lot of people say, where the tradition really took off, was people emulating him. Obviously, there were other reasons for that. There's different traditions relating to evergreens. But that is, in the Victorian era, that's where it took off.
Yeah, he was likely inspired by those older traditions himself. But yeah, for the common folk, they hadn't been doing Christmas really for, generations at that point. And that's one of those fun things, is a lot of the things we think of as being ancient traditions really aren't.
Yeah.
Santa as a concept. Again, we had Father Christmas beforehand, but Santa himself is a bit of a newer one, and Saturnalia and all that, they did the tree decoration, but that was outright banned in Europe for a good while. America basically had to reinvent what Christmas was for us.
And it's been through so many iterations, so it's always changing. And like we were talking about before, that there are connections with Saturnalia, but even like connecting things to that, if you want to talk about Christmas traditions with quotes, Saturnalia traditions are quite interesting, and you can see how they have impacted. Obviously, there's the one, again, that's kind of the common trivia of holly berries and wreaths and that sort of stuff being sacred to Saturn, and so that being a tie-in where they were then brought over to Christmas. They also, holly berries, when they were brought into England by the Romans, gained significance amongst the Celts as well. So they just are significant wherever they go, berries for some reason.
I mean, they are a very vibrant red. They stand out a lot.
They also have that evergreen status, and all evergreen plants are considered very significant to places that have severe winters.
Yeah.
So it's seen as a holdover, something that gets you through to spring. Lets you keep life alive. But there's also the idea of these festivals, again, connecting it to Father Christmas in the idea of him being a feaster and a merrymaker. They had these festivals that it was kind of like, if people are familiar with the Festival of Fools, that what happened in the medieval and Renaissance periods, they had the Roman equivalent of that, where there was the king of the feast who made everything topsy-turvy. So there was a lot of chaos going on and a lot of generosity. They had an idea, and there's some debate as to exactly how it was, but the slaves in the Roman Empire were treated to the feast by their masters. Some versions say that they ate together, but others say that the slaves acted as the masters and the masters acted as the slaves for that day. So there's this idea of giving and generosity, but also of things just being inverted and backwards. It was supposed to be chaotic.
Yeah, a lot of those, end of winter festivals were basically, hey, we lived, let's throw a party.
Yeah.
The early versions of Yule were literally just, we are going to burn this log for as long as it will burn, and we will keep eating until we can't.
Mm-hmm. Which, this is not something confirmed, but just as food for thought and just a point of interest. December 25th, Saturnalia is, as most festivals from the ancient and medieval world, not confined to a single day. It's a time period. It encompasses December 25th, but it wasn't December 25th. It was longer than that. What holiday was December 25th in the Roman calendar was the birthday of Sol Invictus, who became their primary deity under Emperor Aurelian. And he is the one who actually established the feast of the birth of Sol Invictus on December 25th in the later half of the 3rd century. So, as said at the beginning, Christmas became an officially sanctioned holiday by the Roman Empire in the 4th century, so actually only about 60 years between Sol Invictus' birthday and Christmas becoming established. But Christmas was presumably celebrated prior to it becoming an state-sanctioned holiday, because Constantine was who made Christianity the state religion, but it was a religion prior to that. So it is possible, again, not knowing which one copied which, but they're coming around the same time, being established at around the same time. So it's very possible that they borrowed stuff from each other knowingly as they were both developing. Just, again, we don't know details. It's a long time ago.
Yeah. There are a lot of holes in the universe's collective memory there, unfortunately. A lot of lost data, but
not a lot of sociologists and well too many people that thought they knew everything wrote that down instead.
Yeah.
And you, Pliny. The Elder specifically, but...
Yes, Pliny the Elder.
He came up in my research relating to Christmas. What was it?
Of course, that doesn't surprise me. He was a self-proclaimed expert of everything. Knew basically nothing.
Pliny the Elder promoted the ideas of hollies as a type of lightning rod, actually. That's how there was a connection in holly berries. He said that if you had holly berries on your house, it prevented it from being struck by lightning. You can do away with your lightning rods now.
Just another really great idea from a very, very noted imbecile. And of course, it's easy to poke fun at him now because it's so much later, and we know a lot more than he'd ever have had access to. But I want to know what his research was.
Yeah.
Like, how did he come to this conclusion?
He's just like, I saw lightning hit holly once. It must attract holly. I don't know.
Very surprised if he managed to see, because it's not a particularly high plant. Like,
no, I don't know. I have no idea what I'm trying to give him the benefit of the doubt here.
Or, some kid was like, can you tell me about this plant? He's like, I have to make up something real quick. Lightning. There, go away. Here's the story. Now take it and run. So much. I am fortunate in one of the good things about TikTok. One of the good things.
It's a short list.
Yeah. The list of good things grows, but then so does the list of bad things. So it's just kind of, Anyway. What I was treated to this year was a great variety of footage from a lot of different Krampuslauf celebrations in Europe, which is, we've talked about Krampus. You also have Krampuslauf or Krampusnacht, where it's a night where usually a Krampus parade where a bunch of people dress in, big woolly suits with horns and all sorts of things. But I read about it, but seeing some of the stuff, like just a bunch of people running around in the streets, and then there's crowds behind barricades or whatever. But then one of the people runs up with a switch, a bundle of twigs and things, and just starts swiping at people, and everyone's cheering. It's like, this is kind of intense, but that's kind of really cool too.
Yeah, it is kind of an interesting thought, because a lot of that weird. Those sort of festivals are things that, like, I've heard about, but yeah, in the modern world, there's videos of these. You can, much the same with the Gavel Goat. It's, you want to see it? It's on webcam. It is on 24-hour surveillance because they really don't want you to burn it down. But yeah, you can find the Krampusnachts. You can see, I can't remember her name now, but Italy has a drunk witch that shows up, I think, the week after Christmas traditionally. And the whole point of the character is the wise men invited her to come with to see the birth of Christ. And she was like, I'm busy that day, essentially. And now she feels guilty about it and just trying to find the barn, but is always missing Christmas. And as far as I can tell, the festival is largely an excuse for older women to get drunk and have a good day. So... But I do just love that it's like, and this is just like, you can see photos of all of these women with like very goofy prosthetic noses and like usually a glass of wine in hand, holding a broom. And I love that that's just something you could just watch now. Something that, even though it's happening on the other side of the world, you can still see it though. Which is, we might not ever really understand the origins of a lot of these traditions, but at least through the modern age, we can show them to people.
Yeah.
These will, at least in some variation of themselves, will continue to exist through that medium.
It's fun that all the different, like, there's Santa Claus, and then there's the various anti-Santa Clauses and mischievous spirits, or, trying to do good witches, drunk people, and that sort of thing. But it's also, again, amusing just how sometimes it's not a different person. Like, sometimes the Krampus is Santa Claus.
Yeah.
And talking about, like, why the traditions are the way they are, there is I think it's Dutch tradition, but it's somewhere around there, that Sinterklaas, he doesn't give the naughty children a coal. He kidnaps them and takes them to Spain. And I just don't understand why specifically they have to go to Spain. So I don't know.
I guess they really hated the Spanish at the time.
Something like, I don't know.
I'd generally like to see Spain, by all means, Santa. But yeah, it is... Again, American Santa has definitely been made a bit more toothless over the years, because, the bad kids get coal as opposed to Krampus, he's just going to beat you with a birch stick.
Yeah.
And, the handful of others where it's, no, they're going to just take you away, and you will disappear forever. Or you will be eaten by a very weird cat.
Yeah.
But American tradition is a lot friendlier to the naughty kids.
Yeah. There's also a lot just like, I know Santa Claus in America has been around for a long time, but modern folk tales are a lot friendlier than traditional ones as a whole.
I mean, yeah.
So
can't remember what culture it was, but one of like the things that got St. Nicholas's sainthood was basically repairing kids that had been butchered
and stuffed in
pickle barrels. Yeah, like he came and healed them and punished the murderer essentially, and that's a weird story to fit in with the rest of the Christmas lore.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's just this casual child dismemberment. Doesn't come up too often on the Hallmark Channel, it seems.
There was I don't remember what form of media it was, whether it was a movie, a video game, or what, or maybe just like a graphic novel. I think it was actually a graphic novel, but it was a retelling of the Santa Claus story, but instead of a chubby old man, he is absolutely ripped, holding an axe. And he still has, the flowing
full beard
and the coat, but he has the coat open, and you can see his bare, muscly chest, and he just goes around killing the various monsters that we've been describing.
Yeah, like things like Krampus,
Krampus, and the Yule lads, and things like that. And it's like, that is about as accurate as the jolly old Saint Nick. It's just two different directions of the same story. Just a splintered
evolution there.
Yeah.
It's interesting because, there was a show, I think it's literally just called The Librarians, which is kind of fitting. I had one of my favorite depictions of Santa because it was Bruce Campbell. And the thing is, he would, basically over the course of the episode, he would inhabit different roles as that had been essentially filling Santa. So at one point he is just Saturn, but he is also, St. Nicholas, he is also Father Christmas, and they're all distinct personas that he is putting on.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it was Librarians. Yeah. Because I was thinking I was like, wait a minute, was it that or was it Warehouse 13? It's not Warehouse 13. No. That was a different one. There's also a very good episode.
Yeah, they also had a very interesting Christmas episode. Christmas specials, again, are literally last year we did a whole thing on the Rankin Bass one. They're all kind of interesting, and the ones that focus on Santa especially, because, as we said, Santa is so many different things to so many different cultures.
Right. One interesting potential origin and yet another direction of Santa Claus that we haven't mentioned. Again, this isn't confirmed, but there's a lot of evidence for it, is that Santa Claus is Odin.
Yeah.
The Norse god.
Absolutely.
Odin. So
every time Odin appears as a human, he's a dude with a big, long, flowing beard, and he's usually handing out dubious gifts.
And he's also connected with the Yuletide.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, he's connected with everything.
Everything. He's the chief god for the Norse.
But there was specifically, again, connecting the idea with Father Christmas. He would specifically be a part of the Great Hunt or the Wild Hunt or something like that. That would take place at the Yuletide. That would then allow for the feast. That would then get you through the winter. So again, the idea of feasting and merrymaking, that personification of the solstice and of winter, Odin took on that role as well. So there is that connection between him and Father Christmas, him and the Green Man, him and all of those other hundreds of versions of that, and by association, Santa Claus. He's also known by 1,000 names.
Yeah.
So they have a lot in common.
Yeah, I can absolutely see Odin filling in that same sort of figure. And I mean, I can say that about most chief gods, although obviously, again, I don't think Osiris would have much to do with that sort of thing because just of how different the climate and everything would be over in Egypt.
And you can still see, like, very distinct narratives. Like, you can tell that, like, the Osiris myth doesn't have to do with
it doesn't,
the Yule myth.
Yeah, it's interesting because most of the European-style cultures, there are a lot of weird overlaps. Like, Zeus and Odin share a lot of odd similarities because they probably at some point were based on that same guy.
Yeah, we could talk about Leap Day Williams.
Is that a real thing?
There's a thing for 30 Rock, but at this point it's like, sure, why not?
Gotta add more people to the weird holiday pantheon so Santa has more to rule over.
Yeah. It was just a really funny bit from that episode where they do, basically it's Santa Claus, but it's a fake movie trailer, but it's Jim Carrey becoming this character that only exists on leap days.
Oh.
It's really funny.
It's funny, though, that you bring up 30 Rock, because they actually did a very interesting depiction of Christmas mythology, because the whole thing is they're doing a big Christmas special, and Jack is just like, all of this is wrong, because he didn't have a dad around, so his mom did a bunch of, Mrs. Claus substantially more important to the mythology, so he has a very different viewpoint.
Okay.
And that's kind of a neat thing to think about, because that is probably true, We have a very broad term of how we think of Santa as Americans, but I guarantee it's different from person to person, because, and not just because, different cultures will try and do their own spins, but individual families will as well,
Yeah.
My family is one of the ones that's like, oh yeah, you get one present on New Year's Eve. I assume because I was a whiny brat and my parents wanted me to shut up is actually probably the birthplace of that tradition in my family. But it could have also been that my sister was a whiny brat and they wanted to shut her up. But it's one of those two things, I guarantee it.
Should have told you about the Yule Cat.
Probably. But I'm willing to bet that the issue probably came up either when my sister or I was very young, because my parents' anniversary is Christmas Eve. The Miller family are a bunch of crazy people, and we tend to get married at holidays. My sister, for example, was married on a leap year. My grandparents, Miller, were married on Halloween. Makes anniversaries very easy to remember, I think, is the purpose of this trick. But it does mean that Christmas Eve became a little bit more important in our family because there was that first gift being exchanged.
In my house, we have a chimney and a fireplace, but we never use it. It doesn't work. It's not hooked up kind of thing. So, and as far as I ever knew, fireplace don't work, chimney don't work.
Yeah.
Santa found a way. So, whether he shrinks, whether he's fat, whether he's ripped, doesn't matter. Santa's Santa.
Punches down the door.
Punches down the door, punches other people.
That is one of those things, because I remember when I was a kid, a lot of families in our area don't have chimneys, especially if they're in like an apartment building or something.
Yeah.
So there was an extra layer of mythology that, he also has a magic key so he can get in. And at that point, I'm like, okay, but then why is he coming down the chimney if he's got the key?
Only the key and special.
He prefers it. It's fun for him, I guess.
Growing up, there was a bit of a debate. My father really liked the idea of Santa Claus and so would sign presents as from Santa Claus. However, my mother really didn't want to have any of that. It was like, it's nonsense. And so it was very open and forthright. There was no point in my life where I believed in Santa Claus or there was any mythos presented to me. So it was, my mother loves this story for some reason. I'm not sure why, but she would tell us about St. Nicholas. And so there was one occasion where some friends of the family were talking to my younger sister when she was like 4 or 5 years old, and they're like, are you excited for Santa Claus? And my sister responded, Santa Claus is dead. Meaning St. Nicholas.
St. Nicholas, yeah.
Because he's been dead for almost 2,000 years. But the friend of the family was just horrified that this is what we teach our kids, apparently, is that, oh, no, he's dead.
That is one of those odd things, because it's... My parents were very much on the... Once I understood that it was just kind of make-believe, it's like, you do not tell that to other children. You are now part of the lie. Enjoy. Which is kind of an interesting thing, because I wonder how often, like, younger siblings find out because at some point their older sibling is just like, I'm not doing this anymore.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure I have.
And I know for a fact that I've probably personally ruined Christmas for a handful of kids when I was fairly young because I knew earlier than a lot of kids did because I had an older sibling. It's one of those things where it's like, well, looking back, no, I really should have had the talk of, no, you need to keep lying to people basically forever.
Well, we're just about out of time here, so Alex, is there anything else? Any traditions you do like to keep up with? Anything you do like to break out this time of year?
I don't know that I have anything like that original or fun. I mean, just kind of, I guess, what you would expect. We would always watch White Christmas, and we would set up the Christmas tree. We've always had an artificial tree, which I prefer because they don't smell. So just the holiday tradition of setting up a tree, and, you can make the whole day out of it, setting up the ornaments, putting it all together, watching the movie. Yeah, that's my main tradition. How about either of you?
I mean, my family's traditions are kind of very nerd-centric in a lot of ways, and in other ways it's, one of my personal traditions is I will always watch the Muppets Christmas Carol, and Dad'll sometimes join in, sometimes not, because by the time Christmas is actually rolling around, unfortunately, the world has kind of made us sick of Christmas, especially Christmas music.
Yeah.
So for us, the main Christmas films are usually Die Hard and Gremlins. And I will watch a handful of, the really formative, I guess, Christmas specials to me. I'll watch the Rankin Bass ones, I'll watch the Hey Arnold one, and the Justice League ones, which are all, very specific things that I grew up with and loved. And then Christmas Day, usually we will just leave on Doctor Who, because usually it'll just run either the most recent season or whatever leading up to the Christmas special for that year.
Yeah, I don't think we do anything different, although we do get a real tree, and I gotta disagree, I love that smell.
I don't mind the smell. I hate cleaning up the needles.
That just makes it more authentic.
Let me rephrase that. I hate cleaning up the needles out of the cat vomit.
There you go. There it is.
That's the real problem I have with the real trees.
See, I hate fake needle cleanup. That's the worst.
See, cats don't eat those.
And that's fair.
Some do.
Okay, my cats don't eat those, to be more accurate.
This is my first year, actually, now, in my own house with a cat. And this cat will eat the fake needles, and will try to eat the lights.
Yeah, they do like to try and latch onto those.
What about this is tasty? What about it is appealing? I'm not sure.
It's just weird looking. They want it. It's vitally important that, a week before any ornaments go on the tree is up with lights on it, just so the cats get used to it before anything fragile goes on it.
Yeah.
Well, with that said, Alex, thanks for coming on once again.
Sure.
Jeff, where can people find more of our podcasts? And if they want to sign up, where can they go?
Well, all of our podcasts are available at lansdownlibrary.org/podcasts, which also has the green Register Here button, which you can use to let us know, hey, you'd like to come on the show. We'd be more than happy to hear from you, because it's always exciting to get somebody that's excited about something new.
From all of us here at the Geek Out podcast on Lansdowne Public Library, thank you. Thank you for listening all 2023, and we can't wait for all new episodes in 2024.
Yep, see you in the new year.